So welcome back, everyone. So I thought we'd look a little bit more in terms of some modern armor today. I've got some subject matter experts here today. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself, guys?
Yeah, hi. So my name's Mitch McFarlane.
I am Deshaun Acosta.
And we are the LAV crew, or part of the LAV crew, and I'm the team leader for the LAVs.
Nice, nice. So why are we looking at the LAV? Well, of course, you know, active serving Canadian Armed Forces member. This is the kind of equipment that I'm going to be, you know, working alongside supporting. I'm an artillery gunner, so I don't directly work with LAV, but of course, with the you know, regular force artillery units, 1 horse, 2 horse, and 5 RALC, they're using LAV. So I thought we'd get some education from the subject matter experts, because to be all honesty, I've not actually seen these very much up close. And actually had people talk about them and the details of them. So could you give us maybe just a little overview and you guys both talk through what the vehicle's all about?
Sure. So I think it's important to really go on about the history and what led us up to this point.
Sure.
So obviously Afghanistan was the big war that was going on back in the time when these were really in their height. Canada had sent their LAV 3 fleet over there, and we were still finding that we needed more armor. So welcome to Aquino. And so we needed to fill in that gap with the armor gap. And so we ended up coming out with these, the RWSs. And in the armor capacity, because I was armor reconnaissance over there, we had these as our lead vehicle because they have a surveillance kit. You can't see right now with the flap, but I'll show you later. But it's got a very impressive surveillance package on it. And so we use them as lead vehicles to find the wires, the IEDs in the road, because they could see right ahead. They could pick up copper wire very easily. So that's what led us to this. It was just that stopgap. And pretty much once Afghanistan finished, these finished.
Right.
Because then they were now undergunned.
Okay, okay. Interesting. And the RWS system, so does it have a particular name? I know it's RWS, a remote weapon system, but I think they were talking about it actually has a branding name, is it?
So the weapon, it's the weapon model, and don't quote me on this, it's LAV Nanuk, but
okay.
The troops, we all called it the LAV Nanuk.
LAV Nanuk, okay, interesting.
So we never called it the RWS,
yeah.
But the RWS system is called the Nanuk system.
Okay.
But it ended up becoming the LAV Nanuk.
Interesting. Now, you are a veteran then of Afghanistan.
Yes, yeah.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for what you did. Honestly, a veteran myself, I think it's really important we showcase our veterans, you know, particularly the Afghanistan combat veterans. So thank you for what you did in your service. What about yourself? Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do with this vehicle? You're one of the volunteers. You're obviously working with this vehicle. What's your involvement?
So, yeah, as part of the LAV team, we do everything from just like body work, so taking off some of the pieces. So we just took the foil panels out, which is extremely difficult to do because they're very heavy.
Yeah.
But we do everything. We clean the vehicle. We do everything from cleaning to just general maintenance. We work a lot on preventative maintenance on these vehicles. It's very important here at the museum that we do a lot of preventative maintenance because every time you take this out to drive, it's a lot of maintenance right after.
For sure.
So preventative maintenance keeps us from having to do a lot of the grunt work that you really have to get this vehicle into.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're active serving too, right?
Yeah, I just joined.
Nice, good for you. And you said you had watched my channel a little bit in the past.
I did, yes.
Nice, nice. So your unit is which unit?
32nd Service Battalion.
32nd Service. So this is kind of just your volunteer hobby in the background. This is really cool though, the opportunity that you get to work with all this kit. Dream job. This is my dream job right here with these guys. So yeah, maybe you can just walk us through some of the key features that are a little bit unique to some of, you know, various other vehicles we've got here today. Maybe something that we wouldn't really know about the LAV platform.
Yeah, sure. So with this one, and if you've seen the LAV 3, this one, it's pretty much all electronic.
Okay.
It's a very electronic heavy package. So like that, on the LAV 3, it would have a thermal driver periscope for nighttime driving.
Okay.
This one has replaced it with an IR camera.
Okay.
And so it's got an IR camera in the front, and each glass window you can see there, you can change the direction of the lens.
Okay.
And then it's got one in the back as well, so the driver can, when he puts it in reverse, can see very clearly what's behind him. Unlike when in the LAV 3, you're just going by, you know, hoping no one's there and you're trusting your teammates.
Yeah.
So it is a very electronic heavy. This one, we were very fortunate to get the add-on armor, so that's what you can see all here. It adds all the add-on armor.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what the weight on this one. The LAV 3 was 16 tons without the add-on armor. With armor, it's 20 tons.
Wow.
So it does impact it.
Mm-hmm.
With the add-on armor, it takes the AC capability out of the vehicle because the engine you got to sacrifice it for the engine.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So it made things very hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you look, obviously the remote weapon system.
Yep.
Sean, do you mind just closing the driver hatch? So with the RWS system on the top, I mean that's the main focal point on this vehicle. You got the big serve kit. Now the weapon system, when we had them overseas, we only had the C6 mounted, and then the unit that replaced us, which was the RBCs, they ended up having a 50 installed.
50, yeah, okay.
And I wish we had that because it would have made our life easier.
Oh yeah.
But that was more like a second generational RWS system because our T-Labs had the first gen with the first gen thermals, and so it was interesting to see the progression of the RWS because now with the TAP Vs they got another version.
Sure.
So it's cool to see the progression of them. Massive ammo bay on the side.
Yeah, how much is in there? That must be a lot of 7.62.
Yeah, you easily get over quite a few thousand in there.
Yeah.
And then, but my issue with the gun in it was you could see it's housed. Now it looks armored. It's not. It's just made of fiberglass. But in a desert environment like what we had in Afghanistan, was the dust would get in there because it was like moon dust, pretty much like it is here with
like
all the
baby
tracks.
powder. Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets in there, and then because it's now in a housed setting, there's really no wind, and it settles, it turns into concrete.
Yeah.
So you'd have a stoppage constantly. So that was the big flaw that we had, the drawback on it.
Interesting.
But if we were ever getting really in an engagement, we weren't using the MGs, we were using the LAVs,
Exactly.
the 25s.
25s, yeah.
And we were just using this honestly for its thermal and day camera.
Day camera.
Yeah.
Nice.
But this was meant for Afghanistan. Really, it's more up armored. It's got improvements to the hull, and we'll walk to the back. You'll see it's got some blast seats.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, obviously, when Afghanistan was going on, you had the mine and IED threat. Canada was sustaining a lot of casualties just from guys getting wounded from the blast and the shock waves. So when this came out, you can see all the seats are suspended actually from the ceiling.
Right.
And that was just to prevent the shock waves from going up the spine, causing further injuries. So that cut our injuries quite significant.
Okay, good.
The floors are all reinforced. So they pretty much just threw a lot of armor into this thing and improved it for mine and IED resistant to the best they could. And it helped significantly. And you can see actually in there, you can see the gunner and crew commander compartment.
Sure.
Unlike on the LAV-3, they set up higher. It's harder to communicate with them if you're the guys in the back.
Right.
Here you can have literally a candid conversation with them face to face. It's very easy to get in and out. As the gunner and crew commander, you're practically almost sitting on the floor. It's very low.
Yeah.
You got the screens. We are missing some screens. They're on their way.
Okay.
We ordered them to get replaced.
Nice.
Because our intention is to get it fully operational.
Fantastic.
But it's all, you can see the joystick. That's the gunner's joystick there. So everything's all electronic, powered by, there's a computer right there in front of them. Sensors galore.
Really?
Yeah.
And you noticed, you were saying about that rear, so where's that rear camera for you here?
Right here.
Oh, it's right here. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So you got to watch your head with these ones.
Yeah, for sure. So, for myself in Afghanistan, we operated the Warrior, and we didn't have any of this kind of beautiful stuff. It would have been amazing as a Warrior driver to have that capability, particularly operating in the compounds, right? You got the narrow compound walls in Musakala and in Helmand province. Having this would just be really nice to be able to see what's going on. But one thing I do notice is it does not have wipers or any form of getting rid of the dust. So did you find these accumulated a lot of dust hard to see through?
No, not like the thermals on them are actually very, very good.
Fantastic.
Like you can see very clearly out of
Good.
them. And then as part of your driver maintenance, you would just give them a wipe down. Clean
Fantastic.
them up. And obviously the driver would never reverse without another set of eyes.
Exactly.
It was always good to have.
For sure.
These back plates here, so in the Army Corps in Canada, we always roll with a 4-man crew in labs. You got your guy in the back, or your GIB as we call them, or surveillance operator, your air sentry.
So that's the guy out the back then?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
And so his little job is obviously to cover the arcs of the rear of the vehicle, watch the call sign behind you. And so these here would have had ballistic glass in them.
Okay.
So that was to help him. You can see on the sides here how the rear air sentry hatches, they have like a deflection plate.
Okay.
That was so that to prevent if there was a mine blast, ID blast, the hatch coming up and hitting the occupant.
Okay.
That's what that was there. Up here in the gunner and crew commander, they don't have it installed, but there was like a similar thing. It was a blast protection screen that was around you, probably about maybe 8 inches.
Okay.
With ballistic glass and steel plates, just to give you additional layer protection with if you had your head up as a crew commander.
Right. Right.
So yeah, we'll hop up. I'll show you because there's a cool story actually I would love to share with you guys, just to talk about the serve gear, because a lot of people look at it and they don't appreciate like just how good some of this equipment is, and like it's a good story. I'll share it in a second here.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we're on top of the vehicle now, so maybe you can kind of talk us through the RWS a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, so like I said, it's the casing's made by fiberglass. As you can see, it's like there is no armor plating to it. And you can see like how I was talking about earlier, where the dust gets inside and it settles, it will cake the gun, because dust will get everywhere. You'll get on your nooks and crevices and all your actions, and it'll seize the gun up.
Yeah.
So we were constantly having to do gun maintenance on it. Constant. And like you're always supposed to, but like we had to go that extra level just to ensure that we had a weapon that was reliable.
Yeah.
So but it also has the manual override system. Like you can see, like you got your charging handle back here.
Yep.
You got your grips for the gunner. He's got a trigger. So there is a manual override should you have an electric failure.
Nice.
Just like everything, there's always redundancies.
For sure. Now, when you say manual override, are you physically with your muscles moving, or is it's still hydraulics, physical muscles? Okay.
Yeah, you're physically just giving her, and it takes no effort.
Takes no effort. Okay, interesting. Now, this is gyro stabilized when engaging.
Yes.
So shooting on the move, not necessarily the best route to go, I would assume, with something like this.
I mean, it's a machine gun.
Exactly.
You're not meant to be accurate.
No. Okay.
Yeah, but like you can see, it's a very large ammo tray.
Yeah.
It was definitely, I'm sure, would be way better with a 50. I don't personally, I wouldn't know. I didn't have them when I was in.
Yeah.
But it was good. My first engagement was actually with one of these.
Wow.
And it was this equipment here, which pretty much saved the lives of an entire American convoy.
Wow.
So there's 2 stories. You guys can pick which one you guys want to do.
Okay.
So I guess the first time I realized that this surveillance kit was top-notch was we were in an OP overt again, like right beside an MSR main supply route, and it was middle of the night, pitch black. There's no movement going on in the AO, and all of a sudden, so I got my thermal, I'm scanning, and I can pick out like a very faint heat signature, like in the distance. Like I could see a faint. So I'm like, okay, someone's trying to see what's going on here. Yeah. So I zoom in. I'm like, where is this? Like I can still see it very faintly, but I'm not seeing like any human heat signature.
Yeah.
So I zoom in, lays where it was. So it was 1,800 meters, and it was a spider crossing the road in the middle of the night on the highway, and the thermal picked up the heat difference between the spider and the road.
Unbelievable. From 1,800.
Yeah.
Now, to put in perspective, in the British Army with Warrior, we used a BGTI, or Battle Group Thermal Imaging. I can guarantee you it's nowhere near as crisp and as clean as what you were just mentioning there. It was certainly nowhere near. At night, night watch, which, you're monitoring the arcs, the apexes, the position. When I was on sentry, you picked up a donkey at maybe 800 meters, but 1,800 meters of difference between the spider, that's pretty impressive.
So like I was wowed. Like I wasn't impressed with the gun system. Like I'm not a big C6 fan. But when I saw the thermal capability on this, that's when I'm like, okay, it's not about the weapon system, it's about the optics.
Vision, yeah.
And so that's when I'm like, okay, I trust the gear.
Yeah.
We now got to put it in better use. And so like it was in all our OPs, it was always in the higher feature to help with the thermal. I mean, we always had our Coyote masked up anyways.
Yep.
But now just having a better system, because this thermal was better than the systems we had on the Coyote.
Right.
So then, I don't know, a few months go by, and every day like clockwork, there'd be an American IED road package that'd be traveling down the MSR. And it was like clockwork, and we all knew it's just a matter of time till the Taliban figured it out too.
Yep.
So we had, there was 2 culverts in one of our arcs that were constantly getting IEDs planted. So one night, so if the culverts, for argument's sake, are to the east, I'm facing to the south, and that's my arc to the south. And something just kept telling me, look at the culverts, look at the culverts, look at the culverts. And I knew the LAV 3 that was watching the culverts didn't have the greatest thermal, like it was the LAV 3 thermals that weren't the greatest.
Yep.
So I'm like, you know what? I know you're not technically supposed to go outside your arcs, but I just got this weird sensation something's happening.
Yeah, spidey senses are tingling.
So sure enough, I scan over, and there's 3 of them just frantically digging an IED into the road.
Wow.
And so, like, we get on the horn, we get on the radio, we get permission to engage. So the LAV can't see him on thermal, so I have to guide him in with my thermal. So we guided him in. He hits rounds on target. They take off running, and I'm trying to correct him and give him adjustments. Yeah. And then he had a gun malfunction, and like it went airborne. And
yeah.
But I mean, like we did our job.
Yeah.
They take off. Drone comes in, does the rest.
Wow.
So then the next day, like we didn't go out because like there was only 13 of us in our OP. We didn't want to give up our security to go check the threat of the ID. But obviously we called it up. The next day, the Americans come do their bit on the road, and yeah, it was a massive IED there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, these systems literally not only does, in role of the vehicle supporting saving lives or taking lives, this is actually supporting others from distance, and truly an OP, an observation post. So being an observer myself in the artillery, systems like this are game changing. Being able to visually see rounds on target, being able to call adjustment at fire. I know the observation post vehicles have their own sensitivity to what kind of optics they use, but this sounds like it would be game changing.
Oh, yeah.
Game changing.
Yeah. This was probably the best piece of kit, and like I caught another IED team even like 3 kilometers away.
Wow.
All I could see was like just their shoulders up, and you just see that shovel and you know what they're doing.
For sure.
And same thing. So like that saved another who knows what patrol down the road, right? So yeah, amazing optics on this vehicle.
Fantastic. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing the information about this vehicle today. Just in the interest of time, I'm sure I could talk to you about this all day, especially as an Afghan vet. But just the mere fact that we're able to look at this vehicle today is much appreciated. So thank you again. Really do appreciate it. And of course, we've got lots more to look at here today, so we'll go take a look around. But this is a really cool bit of kit, and personally myself, I would love to play with this one day in an operational setting. But hey, here we are. So yeah, let's go check out some other vehicles. Thanks again.